Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the WRRAP Podcast with me, Lee G, and joining me, as always, my co-hosts, Jamie, Harley and Carwyn. How are you, gentlemen?
All good,
Very well, thank you. Cheers.
Good evening. Good.
So, those of you watching this on YouTube will notice that things are a little bit different this evening because we've had to kind of rejig how we record everything and do a couple of things differently. But don't worry, because it's all the same, and I'm sure everything will turn out just tickety-boo and fine and lovely. So, how's your week been, gents? Who's done anything exciting?
None of us.
I was up in Cardiff for a job interview. That's about it.
How'd you get on? Any news?
It's all right. I've got to call them back tomorrow to see. This was sort of a lab test to see if I can use a pet.
Well, I was struck down with COVID, so I haven't been anywhere really. And I've obviously watched all the rugby most of the weekend, which is quite nice.
Hard life, isn't it? Eh?
I know.
Having to stay home watch rugby.
I know. Yeah.
Well, let's start with a couple of basics then. Who wants to go first on drink of the week? So, Jamie, have you got anything exciting for us this week?
Absolutely not. I'm on water because I was in London on the weekend and I want to give my liver a rest because all I did was drink and eat shit. So I just want to have a few days off the beer and try and be good for a few days.
So Jamie's on the water. This is going to go well. This isn't it?
I can only go one better than Jamie. I'm on the 0% Heineken. So yeah, I'm having a quiet one tonight.
Right. Okay. Harley, save us, my friend.
I've literally got this just for a joke, which most people probably won't get. But this is not the greatest beer in the world. This is just a tribute.
Oh, I got that reference.
Well done.
Tenacious D. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Again, I'm still on my Cornwall theme of going through Cornish beers, even though this is probably one of the more mainstream that everyone will have drunk. But it's nice.
Good stuff.
Cool.
Enjoy.
Well, I've left my bottle in the other room, but I've poured it. But
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure that I'm actually going to drink it because it's called the like an old goat or something, and I can't actually see through it. I think if I put a spoon in there, it would just stand up. So it's.
I was going to say, it looks like you're coming from an old goat anyway, wherever it is.
It's how they got it out that concerns me. Yeah. So, I mean, and it tastes okay. It's just it looks like cream, doesn't it? It looks like a creamy.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll I might end up paying for that tomorrow. So let's talk rugby. Is there anything on the news desk of worthy of note this week, James?
We have no news this week.
Which is quite a nice place for Welsh rugby to be in, really.
It's unusual,
it's
isn't
good
it?
news.
Yeah, it's unusual.
Okay, let's move on to. Go on then, James. Let's do the Scarlets game first. Go enjoy yourself, fella. How did you enjoy the Dragons game against the Scarlets last week?
Well, obviously I didn't go to the game, so I was in London, but I was checking my phone quite regular. And very, very pleased with the result. Didn't see that coming. Would you like to remind us, Lee, what your prediction was on your Scarlet squad for this game?
No.
Would you like to tell us? Well, I can tell you what it is anyway. So you predicted a 40 points to 12 win to the Scarlets. Martin predicted 33-18. And Hugh predicted 35-21. So I was very happy. 31-24 the final score. Parker Scarlets on Friday night. 2 tries from Steph Hughes, 1 from Chad Rosser, Jordan Williams, and Luke Yendall. Now, I've read the match report. I've seen a 3-minute highlight video. So it's not that much to go on, but I think from what I saw, our driving line out and scrum looked pretty solid, which really
It's
impressed me. It does make a change, yeah. The defence was very good. Although I will say, I think the first couple of Scarlets tries, they looked a bit soft, but I was told that our defence was pretty good. There were moments where they were holding up the Scarlets really, really well, which is quite impressive considering we don't have a specialist defensive coach. So, that's pretty good going. They used 28 players in the fixture. They were down to 13 men in the first half, apparently. There were 2 yellow cards, one for Ben Carter, one for Rodrigo Martinez. So I think discipline is something that we need to work on a little bit. But very, very happy. Dragons unbeaten in pre-season, which is something I don't think I've ever said. I can't remember the last time that ever happened.
Make the most of it.
It bodes well. It bodes really, really well. So 2 good wins. One over the Ospreys, one over the Scarlets. So all good.
Cool. Okay, we'll move on then. I'm not going to fucking.
You've got nothing to say about that, then, either. You haven't got nothing to say.
Absolutely fuck all to say about that game. Just really, really disappointing. Very, expectations were high and just sorely let down. And now we've got no bloody scrum halves to speak of. We've got Gareth Davis out in France already. Now we've got Kieran Hardy going to go join him. Our 3rd choice scrum half is injured, so we're going into the season on our 4th choice.
Who's that, the boy from Tenby?
Archie is, yeah. Archie Hughes, yeah, he's injured, yeah.
You can always loan Lewis Jones. See if we can get around the regions.
More than welcome.
So, it's, considering the people that we brought in over the summer when everything else was going to shit, and we were like, actually, this is quite solid. This is quite good. World-class coaches for scrums, backs, just like fucking come on, boys. So, really disappointing start to the season already.
It was only pre-season though, isn't it? So you can't read too much into it. Like, obviously I'm glad that, Dragons have won these games, but it is only pre-season. I don't think you can take that much out of it. I guess from a Scots point of view, it is disappointing because you did name a very strong team, didn't you? You had Tame Plumtree, you had Johnny McNichol, you had Foxy making his 200th appearance, Owen Lloyd. So when I looked at the teams, I must admit I thought Scarlets were going to win quite well, to be honest. It didn't work out. And like I say, you got to go to South Africa now, and it's going to be difficult, isn't it? On the back of 2 losses.
I mean, what I will say is, the last couple of years, every time we go to South Africa for a couple of weeks, it does seem to kind of bring something out of them. The South Africa games were the turning point for our season last season. We came back from South Africa playing a lot better rugby, and then we went into Europe, and it was quite good. So, let's hope it's a turning point for this season already. We can start playing some decent rugby.
You think it's the tour mentality?
Yes, I think that we need 2 weeks on the piss in order to really get ourselves up for a proper season of rugby. That's what we need. Yeah.
Sounds like how we prepare for the pod.
What, we prepare? Okay.
Yeah, by getting pissed.
You've confused Carwyn again with the preparation idea, haven't you?
Yeah. It's got to be off the cuff, isn't it?
So let's talk about Ospreys and Cardiff then, with a vague chance that some of us actually saw the game.
Well, the Ospreys haven't lost at home at all this season, which is quite nice. But I didn't see the game, so I'll let Harley talk about it.
I'll be honest, I sort of had half an eye on this because I was watching the World Cup game, because it was, thankfully the Ospreys did put it out on a stream, but at the same time, watching a YouTube stream on your phone with no commentary and just I'll be honest, I had to mute it because as nice as it was, they gave kids free tickets. I get enough screaming at home. I don't want it coming out my devices as well. It looked like quite an intense game. Weirdly, you wouldn't believe, like, if I told you that in this game, one team scored a try from a rolling ball and a scrum, and the other team scored 2 very nice counter-attack tries, you'd probably guess Cardiff scored the counter-attack and Ospreys the physical stuff. No. Cardiff actually have a rolling ball and a scrum. Admittedly, as we were talking off air, Ospreys are without their top, their 4 first choice props, which made life a little bit easier for Cardiff. But it's nice to know though that despite that, we still have a wonky line out. So as long as they can catch the ball, we'll do damage. The problem is we very rarely ever do. It was very tight game, 28-26. Will Robson had a kick to come draw level in the dying moments we missed. I think Cardiff fans have a lot to be happy about. Willis Halaholo took to the field for the first time in a year, so I think a lot of people. I think it doesn't matter which team you support. That's good for rugby. Seeing him back, it was just a bit of silly fun. There was an absolutely hilarious try scored by Morgan Morse, where Cardiff were defending their line. They ripped the ball clean into open space, and Morse just sort of picks the ball up and just dots it down. It was very bizarre. It was the sort of try you see Cardiff score all the time.
I like the way
I
that
think
when
both sides look very good.
I like the way that when you lose narrowly, then it was a bit of fun. It didn't really matter, it could have gone either way, but it was a bit of fun, And then when you win narrowly, it's about taking the points. It's about making sure that you it's a very different narrative then, Harley. The world changes quite quickly.
I wanted to be magnanimous, but let's be honest, right? Considering all the abuse the Ospreys gave the Dragons for not taking pre-season games in the right light, the fact they had the ball with 10 seconds to go and they kicked it out instead of having a crack for a 5th try is frankly shocking. Unbelievable.
No, still nothing to say. I tell you what, wait till the season starts properly, and we have all our players back as well. It'll be quite nice.
Are you starting with that?
There's not enough time between internationals.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah. We've still got the Barbarians game to go as well when they get back, haven't we? So,
yeah.
I'll see. I reckon that'll just be all the squad players who didn't really play.
Yeah, they're
which is annoying
because
that's where most of the Cardiff players are.
Well, it could be the worst of both worlds, couldn't it? We could have a load of players resting from the World Cup, and then we're going to come back, and then he's going to go, "Oh, we haven't got enough to field a decent side, so we'll take a few from the regions anyway." So it could be the worst of both worlds. We could lose.
I can see players players. Yeah, I can see players like Azarati and Teddy Williams being called up, and probably maybe Joe Roberts. Like the people who didn't quite make the final squad. I can see a load of those coming up. Especially when you think that not a single tight head in the Wales squad will be able to play because it's an out of window test.
Well, talking of call-ups, what do you think of the idea of calling Kieran Hardy up as a replacement for Talupe Faletau? I mean, they say they want to sort of give the scrum halves a rest in training, maybe sort of manage Gareth Davis's workload. But if they wanted to manage the workload in the first place, surely they should have taken 3 scrum halves in the first place. What's your thoughts on this? Anyone?
The reasoning makes sense. It does make sense because, the reason they went for 2 scrum halves, they thought they could balance it more 50-50. But I feel like Gatland's leaning so much more heavily to Gareth Davis now that actually you do need to manage it. And then for training, if you're having 1 scrum half sit out, you've got to have someone there to play in. Particularly then if the backup scrum half, Costello, is having to play because Anscombe's got a niggle or Biggar's got a niggle. It sort of shifts everything around there, whereas we've got enough cover in the back row that we could make 2 back rows, even without Faletau. So I think it does make a bit more sense. Like also, if you were going to call up a back row, who would you call up and with
from within this wider?
If you were like Lydia or Chunzi, you'd be royally fucked off. If you've been in the squad and they call someone else up, they call up Plumtree and he takes the place. Because you'd be thinking, well, why wasn't he there in the first place?
Yeah, well, I mean, don't be wrong. I think Aaron Wainwright, I think, will do the job at number 8. I think even in the warm-ups he played, very well. So I think we'll be looking at him for a lot of go-forward ball as well because he's quite powerful, going forward. So hopefully he can do the job, because I think this Argentinian pack's going to be quite a bit of a beast for us as well.
I think Wainwright and Morgan are pretty much cemented on. I think the thing is how Gatland's going to play it. Is he going to want the more of a line-out option, bring in Chunza? He's going to go dual open sides and move Morgan to 6 and bring Revel or Basham in, or might go for Lydia just to basically have someone just chopping down for 60 minutes.
Well, I'm looking forward to it either way. It'll be interesting, won't it?
Yeah.
Because they've lost Pablo Matera as well, I believe, from the back row.
Yes, they have. Yeah. That's a big blow for them.
Yeah.
Big blow.
Absolutely.
Grade 3 tear to his right hamstring as well. So he'll be out for a few weeks with that. So, not good at all.
Well, we'll take anything at this stage, won't we?
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Argentina game in a minute. So, but before we start on Georgia, did anyone see Fiji Portugal last night?
Oh, awesome!
Of course,
awesome.
Wasn't it just the
Wonderful,
best game of the tournament so far?
I think it's one of the best games I've ever seen.
I can imagine seeing
brilliant.
Just seeing the look. Like, imagine being in the Australian hotel watching that game. Like our old colleague there, Reese. Yeah, exactly. He stuck that picture up with them all sat there as a squad, but the TV in front of them, watching the match. But I mean, the emotions must have been up and down for them. Hard to take. But Fiji's deserved to go through to the quarters. But I thought Portugal were absolutely wonderful to watch. Absolutely,
they've been brilliant all tournament. They've been absolutely for the brand of rugby they played. They feel us, and of course, friend of the pod, Francisco, was very emotional after the game. He was in tears. I'm really pleased for him. I'm pleased for everybody involved with Portuguese rugby, because this is what we want to see. We want to see these tier 2 nations.
Yeah.
We want to see them thrive and develop. And on the front pages, the Portuguese newspapers, rugby was on the front page. That's unusual.
Unheard of.
For football mad country. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I got to be honest though, like you said, it was a brilliant game. The first half I thought was really annoying because it was very, very scrappy, and nobody seemed to be able to catch the ball. Like Fiji knocked on so many times. I found the first half really frustrating. I think the second half it was much, much better. But I'm not surprised though about Fiji, because this reminded me of what happened in 2019 when they lost to Uruguay in the last pool game. And I did say on one of the pods we did that there's a possibility that Fiji could slip up to either Georgia or Portugal. So I'm not entirely surprised. I'm absolutely delighted for Portugal, though. It's brilliant. I mean, that'll really put rugby on the map there, won't it? That'll inspire a lot of kids watching that, and hopefully it'll get a lot more coverage. So, I'm pleased for everybody involved with Portuguese rugby. It was absolutely brilliant to see. Good stuff.
Yeah. Pick up on what Jamie said there about Fiji, cocking up against Uruguay and then cocking up again. And it's that arrogance. It reminds me of very much like earlier Scotland. I mean, not so much the current Scotland teams. They seem to have sorted dealing with tier 2 nations, but Wales are definitely guilty of it. Where I feel like this is Fiji's transition into tier 1, because they raise their game for teams that they're the underdog for, but when they're expected to be favourites, unless it's the Pacific Islanders, they sort of don't know what to do, and they almost underrate their opposition, and then it get to their detriment the last couple of times. Wales have gotten away with it more times than we can count.
Do you think Fiji was
complacent
complacent?
against Portugal?
Yeah,
I think
they've hit that. I think they've hit that point now, where they almost don't know how to play teams. They don't know how to be favourites.
Yeah, they looked complacent, didn't they? I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Portugal, by saying things like that, but I don't think they were at their best, and I did think they were very complacent. But it was still great to see nonetheless.
But like I said, that's the beauty of the World Cup, isn't it? When you have these big teams playing the tier 2s and they turn up and you don't. It's a great spectacle, and I really enjoyed the game, to be honest. And like you said, it's on the front page, and it's normally football. Because their winger or their fullback, he looks like a footballer, to be honest. He's got those boyish good looks. He's got the hair and everything else. He could be playing centre forward. But with Ronaldo,
there are some proper gorgeous people on that Portuguese team, to be fair. Not least the man with the best kick I've seen all tournament, which for me even beats Jack Morgan's 50-22 of Mike Taja. But that was the best I think during that passage was the best kick Portugal did all game up to that point.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, how good has Nicholas Martin's been, though? He is superb. I mean, he really needs to be snapped up now by a big club, either in
He's
the
been in my
English
fantasy
Premier or
team.
top 14. He has been brilliant. And I just thought it was really fitting that he was named player of the match as well. You know, on that historic win, it just seemed to fit. It was written in the stars almost. I thought it was brilliant. You know, I think he's been absolutely brilliant this tournament, and yeah, they're just a joy to watch. It's a shame, isn't it, that we won't get to see him again now for a little while. I guess we'll see him in the Rugby Europe Championship. Is it they playing? And
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to pay more attention to him. Now, I definitely will. I definitely will pay more attention to him because I thought they were brilliant to watch. Loved them.
You
Well,
have
it's
no
quite-
choice, mate. You're going to have to pay attention to them now. Otherwise, Francisco will be back on and you'll be going
Yes.
absolutely mental. You'll be round your house with a telly. Right, come on, let's watch. But yeah, I think the test now is who actually allows Portugal to play in the autumn internationals or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Who invites Portugal to come and play a game of the big sides? You know, or do we just say, right, Portugal goes back and just plays France and Belgium and Germany? Do you know what I mean? They need to step up as much as Fiji do, and you know, Samoa must be looking at what Fiji have done, and Tonga must be looking at what Fiji have done and go, right, okay, well, that's the way forward now. Do you know what I mean? So the next World Cup, we should have at least another 3 or 4 tier 1 quality sides. You know, that's the way it's got to go now, and it may well mean that sides like New Zealand, and we've seen it with Australia and France now, and Ireland, you know, those sides at the top actually, you know, they don't get everything their own way, and a little bit of the funding gets moved away from them and towards some of the developing sides. So actually the next World Cup, it's not a shock when Portugal come through and when Fiji come through, and you know, we've seen Japan beat, you know, South Africa in the past, but we need to see more of that, and we need to see World Rugby kind of throw a bit of cash behind it and say this is the way forward now, boys. So that's what I want to see off the back of that game anyway.
Yeah, and if it's going to be a 24-team World Cup, then we need to be giving the likes of Portugal more exposure against tier 1 teams. We need that gap to continue to narrow, don't we? So yeah, it's a shame, all this talk about, you know, the Nations League and all this stuff. It's really disappointing, isn't it? You know, I hope something can change. I don't know what will, but one thing's for sure, we need to be playing more tier 2 teams. Everyone in World Rugby has to do their bit to make sure they get the exposure, the development, to be playing these teams more regular, you know, because that's the only way they'll improve. That's the only way they'll improve.
We're playing Scotland every year in the Six Nations, so, you know, we're giving them a chance.
Oh dear, poor Scotland.
Yeah.
Hey, Carwyn, didn't you say, I think you did, didn't you, that Scotland were going to get out the pool as their island?
I did.
You absolutely did, didn't you? But you must feel like a right tit now. Did you really believe that? No, honestly, did you really
Come on now,
that
they had the blueprint. I was like, you know what I'm like, Jim? I was being very optimistic. I was being very optimistic as I normally am.
Deluded, I just say.
Well,
we just heard
maybe.
Cohen's confession. He's transferred to Cardiff as well. Talking about his blueprints.
Oh,
so
come on, lads.
What did we actually think of the Wales-Georgia game then? How do we think that went for Wales? Where do we think it went right? So, Jamie, where did it go well for Wales?
Look, I think Warren Gatland summed it up best at the end of the game, didn't he? He said, job done. I think Wales are very clinical when they need to be. That's the good thing about Wales, you know. I think when the opportunities are there, we are clinical. I mean, what was the score? I was just trying to find what the fourth time. So it was 43-19, wasn't it? The problem is, it didn't feel like that, did it? It did not. I mean, that sounds like a comprehensive scoreline, which it is, but the performance really didn't match up to that scoreline. And there's a couple of things that worry me about Wales, though, and it's happened a few times, particularly against Fiji and against Georgia as well, where we control the game. You know, we look to be in control for about 40, 50 minutes. We're clinical, we're taking our chances. Then we seem to have a lull then in the second half, and that's when teams come back into it. Now, I'm really concerned that if we do that, say for example, we beat Argentina, and we're playing either Ireland or New Zealand. If you give them that opportunity, you ain't coming back from that. So Wales have really got to be switched on for the full 80. And I feel at times during this tournament, we haven't been switched on for the full 80. We seem to switch off in the second half. But like I said, it was job done. I thought Tommy Revel was very good. I thought we were good at the breakdown. He won us a few turnovers. I thought Sam Costello was okay. I mean, to be fair, that kid was chucked into the deep end. Really felt for Gareth Anscombe, by the way. That was awful. You could see from his face. I mean, they haven't confirmed that he's definitely out, but he looked like he had the man of a look. He had, he knew his World Cup was over. That's what it looked like to me anyway. He looked devastated.
Yeah, Hugh Bennett said today that all three of them are in contention for selection.
Well, that's good news. I mean, because it didn't look like that when he come off. It looked like he was absolutely devastated, and he had the look of a man who knew his World Cup was over. But if he is in contention, that's great. I thought Liam Williams was really hungry with ball in hand. I thought it was a really good game for him. I think Lewis v. Samet as well. It's good to see him get amongst the tries. Took his hat-trick really well. And like I said, I think we are clinical when we need to be, but I do think we need to sharpen up for the full 80 because there are times where we're switching off, and it is going to concern me if we play the bigger teams and the better teams that it's really going to come back to bite us. So we can't keep relying on Louis v. Samet to conjure up some magic,
it's about keeping the foot on the throat, isn't it? It's about keeping the foot on the throat. I don't think...
Well, we did it against Australia, but we haven't really done it against other teams, and that's frustrated. I want a more complete performance, but it is job done, and we won the pool. We topped it, and how many people said we were going to do that? Not many. We talked about this before, but we've been written off and disregarded. Actually,
everyone said we were going home.
We were disregarded by a lot of experts and pundits. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be Australia and Fiji. Wales were not supposed to be getting out this pool. I mean, we've done incredibly well. If you told me we were going to take 19 points out of a possible 20, I was like, really? I wouldn't have believed you, but fair play, we've done it, and it is job done. But I still think we got a bit of work to do, I think.
One thing that I was very pleased with, just to hop in, is our line out. So not only do we win every line out very comfortably, I know it's George and you can caveat it, but we got 5 line out steals, and it wasn't just one player going up. You had Will Rowlands going up and stealing some. David Jenkins got one. Aaron Wainwright got one. Christ Chunza got one. Having these really athletic back row 6'8", we get thrown up. It's just, we hounded them, and that's something we haven't seen from Wales, even against tier 2 nations in quite a while. So that was quite pleasing. The scrum again went fine. It looked a bit messy, but we got our ball out. There was that one brain fart with Thomas Williams knocked on at the base, which I don't know whether that's him keeping an eye on the Georgian scrum half or Tommy Revel's boot catches it ever so slightly and that comes out with hands. But I think it was good. Interestingly, was how Tommy Revel got his turnovers. So they weren't typical, they weren't mostly all typical one-player tackles and him goes over. A lot of it was more from kick chase and getting the advantage and getting the penalties deep in their half, which is, when we go on to the Argentina game, something I think we're going to end up using as a tactic again. Because I don't feel like we look because we don't really make that many dominant shots in defence. We're not going to be that easy. It's not going to be that easy to get over the ball. But at no point did I think we were going to lose. Which, considered to the, I remember for the Georgia game, I was walking through Dartmoor and I had text alerts coming through. And I was just and after about 20 minutes in, I went, we've lost this. And I don't know why, I just had that feeling. And But it might have been a bit scrappy, but that's what everyone always says when Wales win. We put 40 points on them. All right. Admittedly, there were 2 tries right towards the end that sort of padded it out, but at the end of the day, the bonus point came a lot easier than it did against Portugal.
I agree with you, though. At no point did I feel like Wales were going to lose, because even when David Yashvili scored and that they clawed it back to 24-19, I still didn't think Georgia were going to win it. I felt confident in our ability to close the game out, and that's what we did. So, I do agree with it.
I think big loss is Faletau. I mean, yeah, we can definitely we can compensate for it, but that was basically the only that was the big bad thing that came out of the game.
It overshadowed it, and I think that and Anscombe, the injuries, they massively overshadowed us winning the pool. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, as we mentioned, Alan Wainwright will do a good job at it. Of course he will, but he's not Tulupe Faletau. And yeah, I am gutted, and I think it does harm their chances of really progressing further now in this competition. It's such a huge blow, and if we don't have Dan Biggar available, then I mean, that's even going to reduce our chances even more, isn't it? But yeah, it's a devastating blow. I really do feel for Tulupe Faletau. It's yeah, it did put a massive dampener on what was a pretty good achievement, you know, winning that pool, and yeah, pretty shit really, wasn't it?
Well,
look, it's onwards and upwards now, isn't it? So, you know, got to put that to bed. We've dealt with the injuries. We move on. We support the team, and like I say, those other players they'll do just as good a job, I think.
Well, we're kind of in a place, well, outside half where we're almost running out of players, because, you know, they may say they're available, but Biggar's coming back from an injury. Anscombe picked up an injury and is coming back from an injury. And then with the best will in the world, you know, Costello is still kind of finding his feet. And we're going into potentially, you know, quarterfinal, you know, potentially semi-final with Costello and two really experienced broken tens, you know.
Liam Williams as well. There's a concern over Liam Williams. So
yeah,
he could be another loss. I mean, you know, you got Lee Halfpenny there, haven't you? Or you could put Lewis Rees-Sam at the fullback, which I wouldn't do for this game. You know, you'd think Lee Halfpenny would come in, but there are some.
We finished it that way, but I'm not a fan. I'd rather someone like Josh Adams at fullback if we had to do a makeshift. More just because I trust his defence and his aerial skills a bit more than Zamet.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him a fullback. No way. Not for this. Not for
Didn't
a game
Zamet
like this.
play fullback against Argentina in the summer? Was it this last summer?
He did, actually, yes.
Yeah.
Not the summer. He played fullback in the autumn internationals.
Autumn, yeah.
The autumns.
Or was that the Georgia game he played? Was it the Georgia game?
Definitely played fullback in the
Adams
he did,
the
didn't he?
Australia
Yeah.
game. I mean, he's played once there. But I said personally, I think Adams is a more on what I'd like in a fullback, which is Lee Halfpenny and Sanjay. You know, I want someone defensively sound before worrying about attack.
Yeah.
Ideally, if they can link and they've got a bit of a rugby brain as well, that helps. But
yeah,
and I think Zamet's so good on the wing. Why diminish one weapon just to shore up something else?
But who do you put at 10 if Anscombe doesn't recover, and if Biggar, you know, Biggar pulls up 10 minutes into warm up on Saturday? Who do you put at 10? Because the talk at the minute is putting Thomas Williams there.
What?
Yeah, he's been doing it in training, hasn't he? I read or heard that somewhere. Yeah,
you'd have to start.
You'd
have to start Costello. You'd have to, but then you use Thomas as a contingency.
Yeah,
plan.
I agree with you on that.
You've got stuff. Yeah, I mean, I didn't realise. I didn't know he was training at 10. I mean, that's just ridiculous, isn't it?
The answer's been in front of us all along. It's Jack Morgan.
Of course.
Oh, yes.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, Thomas Williams can kick at goal reasonably well, but I mean, he did it in that one game against Connacht. But Lloyd Williams is the one who was actually playing 10 for that during that very weird game. But we won, so you know, I'm not going to go all Reese and the Sharks over that one.
No, let's not be all negative now. It'll all be fine.
I think Biggar's going to be fine. I mean, it looked like Biggar was there. I honestly thought at one point we were going to break glass and bring Biggar on. So I'm glad Gatland's had faith in Costello to do the job.
And it's good for him as well, isn't it? Like you said, it's good for Costello. Get those minutes under his belt, get that experience, and come out on a winning team as well. So, yeah.
But he's going to have to do it next year. He'll have to do it because let's not forget for the Six Nations, there's going to be no Anscombe. There's going to be no Biggar. So somebody needs to step up. You know, yes, you got Owen Williams, but I thought it was a really good experience for Costello because he is more than likely to be Wales' starting 10, in the Six Nations, isn't he? So, yes, it was a good experience for him. I thought he did okay, I saw mixed sort of comments on Twitter for some people saying he's not ready for Test rugby and he lost control. He did have some shaky moments, mind. I do agree he did have some shaky moments. There's a couple of decisions I thought, no, I shouldn't have done that. Like, that was a poor kick. But overall, considering this is a young kid who's been chucked into the deep end, I actually thought he did okay. Now, do I want him starting against Argentina in a big quarter final? Absolutely not. I've got my fingers and toes crossed that Dan Biggar's going to start because we need him. No, seriously, because if he's not available, mate, that is a massive, massive blow. On top of losing Faletau, all of a sudden, I don't think we're favourites to win that game.
When's the
and
team
Argentina
named?
won't me.
It have to
So
be named by
Wednesday?
Thursday, but who knows with Gatland. Because we're the Saturday, we're playing Saturday.
He'll name it late, I think, because there's so
Yeah.
many injury concerns. He'll name it late. That's what he normally does. When he's got a full strength squad, sometimes he'll announce it early. But I think with the injury concerns, I think they'll delay it. It wouldn't surprise me, just to see if these players actually come through or
Give him
not.
a chance, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's done before.
Okay.
Well, would you put a halfpenny on the bench to give yourself another kicking option if you're outside after a little iffy? So let's say Biggar doesn't recover and Anscombe doesn't recover. Do you trust in Costello staying on for the full 80, but you put a halfpenny there just in case, so that you've always got a kicking option? Do you know what I mean?
Costello's kicking was fine against
Yeah, no, I'd
Georgia,
say
wasn't it? His place kicking was fine.
if Costello
Yeah,
gets
I mean, he missed one really fairly difficult one, but yes. That's the point. And would you put halfpenny there as an extra, just having of the general? Would you start
I'd have him as an extra 9, 10,
kicking?
15.
I don't know. I think personally, I think if he's going to have anyone on the bench, it's probably going to be whichever one of Zamet, Dyer, and Adams doesn't start. I think he'll stick with that player.
See, I thought Dyer played well. He was into everything. He just, apart from getting his name on the score sheet, he was flying up. Yeah. I thought he played really well.
Yeah, I've said about that on social media. He's working incredibly hard. He's busting his bollocks off. He's brilliant in the air. You see his work rate. Like, every time there's a kick, he is running up there. He is fast as lightning.
Yeah.
He's working so hard for little reward. And I've personally found it really frustrating that he hasn't been on the score sheet yet. It's I don't think he'll start against Argentina. I think, you're not going to drop Josh Adams here, let's be honest.
No.
And you're not going to drop Louis Rees-Zammit because the guy just scored a hat-trick. So I think it'd be very, very harsh. Maybe he will, but I can't see it. But I think we also had a really good tournament, but he's not getting the just rewards he deserves, unfortunately. And it's a shame, because I said I'd love to see him get a couple of tries or two because it'll boost his confidence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I say you could
I'd
see.
drop Zamet. Well, I wouldn't drop him. I'd bring him off. I'd put him onto the bench to come on and cause chaos in the last 20, 30 minutes and have Adams and Dyer chasing kick. Particularly, as I said, if it's looking like the best and most informed back row we're going to have is Jack Morgan and Tommy Revel. If we're going to lose a little bit of size in the back row to bring down these Argentinian ball carriers, our best bet is to kick and have Zamet and, or whether it's Zamet, Dyer or Adams, chasing like hell with Morgan and Revel on, almost having them paired up on wings. And, say left wing it's Dyer and Revel, and right wing it's Morgan and Adams. The winger chops them down, the other one's over the ball, and we start taking threes all day. Because England showed with this Argentina side, which is a thing with Michael Cheika teams anyway, and Argentina anyway, they're a fantastic side and they're up for it when they're in the game. If you start going 3-6-9 ahead of them, their heads start to drop. And, you see it in every time whenever they've tried to back up a big game and another team's just gone and slowly worked up a score, their heads go, whether it's through discipline or them just not playing that well. So I think that could be. I think the tactics is going to bear in mind that both for the wingers, the back row. I think pretty much everywhere else in the team we're fairly settled. He's not going to change the centres. 10 is going to be Biggar if fit, Costello if not. I think if Biggar's only about 80%, he's going to be playing. And then you'll have Costello on the bench, because I think Gatlin would rather have Biggar on for 30 minutes, and then if he's injured, you've got a fit player coming on. They'd have a fit player coming on, and then someone you're not sure on potentially having to do 78 minutes.
Or do you bring him on the
perhaps
last 20 minutes of the game just to close the game out? Do you have Biggar at the end rather than starting if he's not fully fit, you know?
I think that would have been the plan if Anscombe had gotten through Georgia. And if Anscombe was ready to start, I think he, the way that works is if you can actually get ahead and you stay ahead. Whereas I'm not so sure Costello's just right about, trying to eke these games out so far. I'm quite happy to be proven wrong, but I think he needs probably another 10, 15 caps worth of experience to get to, to just have that instinctive feel for the game.
Yeah,
he's still an incredibly raw talent. Let's not forget.
Oh yes, yes, yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah,
let's
I said
talk about the tactics then that are going to beat Argentina, and then we'll talk about the personnel that can beat Argentina. So, Carwyn, how do we break down Argentina? What's the way to break down Argentina this weekend?
Well, I think it's similar, like how England played against them. You've got to get stuck in at the start. Like I said, earlier, they're missing their big man Pablo Matera, unless he makes a miraculous recovery. But like, we have been clinical every time we've gotten into the 22 range. We're coming away with points, and we've just like Harley mentioned, then take your 3 points, take those 3 points. We've got to keep that scoreboard ticking over. Now, this is knockout rugby. Now this is the big boys league, and I think, but just staying positive, keeping those tackles going, keeping that red wall, keeping that defensive line strong throughout that 80 minutes. There's no giving up, like in that Georgia game. There was that lapse in concentration, which let them back in. I know we said, we didn't think we were going to lose that game. Thankfully, we didn't. But Wales have been known to have those lapses. We had it against Fiji, we had it against Portugal, and we had it against Georgia. Yeah, we took Australia to the cleaners. But keep that defence strong, into the forwards, just truck it up, take the 3 points, and when it's on in the 22, take it. Like I said, we've got the confidence here, and we've got the players to do it. To pop a few tries on the board.
So what you're saying is the way to win the game is to score more tries,
points
do, and not let them. Yeah,
that's right, exactly.
It's a fairly effective one, isn't it?
I like to think that normally works.
So Harley, who comes in for the final game? What kind of side do we put out, and who doesn't get the nod for this? I say final game, potentially the final game if we don't get it right.
I was about to say you're optimistic.
I've still got
think
this.
David Jenkins has done nothing wrong, but I imagine Beard's going to come back in because he was sort of rested. As great as Lake was, we're probably going to have Elias again because he's just imperious. Unless Gatlin saw enough against Georgia to say, yeah, actually, no, he's my guy, and using his, extra physicality, because, it's Argentina, and certainly in terms of their forwards, are very much like South Africa, and they're going to want to match up front, and that's something we're going to have to do. I think the back row is going to be the biggest struggle. A lot of people calling for Revel and Morgan. I'm not a big fan of it personally. I think Wales struggle because I don't think we've got the balance in the pack elsewhere. I'd rather have the extra line out option and go, having I'm probably going for Chunza. I know he's not the most popular person on this pod. I think a lot of people weren't too impressed with him, but I thought he was very good when he came on Saturday, and I thought he was brilliant against Portugal. It was one of his best games. He's actually given the ball and allowed to do his thing. But I said I don't know. I've got a feeling he probably will go with the dual sevens and use Jack as more of a typical six.
What about Dan Lydiate?
The only thing I'm worried about with Dan Lydiate is he's not played since Portugal, and even then he looked a little bit not quite there. So that's the thing. You could pick any three of them. You could go Morgan to 6 and Basham at 7 if you really want, or keep Wainwright at 6 and Basham at 8. This has gone very politician Dan. So I genuinely don't know which way Gatlin's thinking with this back row at the moment, but I think personally, I'd probably go for. I'd give Chunza a crack, but then is a quarterfinal of World Cup the time? It's the sort of call Gatland would make. I think the back line again, centres as you keep. You're going to start Gareth Davis, Biggar if fit, Costello if not, and then we hope for the best. And then wingers. I don't think there's a case to have any two of those three, and then you're probably looking at the third one on the bench. I don't think Mason Grady did quite enough to break in. I think, he's still. You can tell he's someone who has barely broken through at regional level, because he's trying things that for Cardiff will make meters and he'll score tries off. Whereas at international, you just don't quite have that much. Everyone else is just as quick and that bit more powerful. So I think that he's still trying to adjust to that. So some players, depending on the type of game, they can just walk straight into it. Like Joe Hawkins, his first game, he looked the business. I think, and then benches. Maybe we see Domachowski in for Nicky Smith. Smith seemed to not be at the best we all know he can be, but then Gatland might use to go for the chance again. I think they're going to stick with Elliot D just because he makes such a difference, and he's a different hooker to Elias and Lake. And then whoever's left for the other two forward replacements. If we're that bare bones in the backs, we might see if Thomas is just covering 9 and 10, we might see a 6-2, but I doubt it because Gatland's not been a fan of it.
May surprise us all yet.
It's going to go 8-0.
It's the back row, though, that's the hardest to call, though, isn't it? Like, you can pretty much name the full-strength Wales team now, but Faletau's injury has just made it that much more difficult to predict where he's going to go. Now, me personally, I would go Morgan, Revel, Wainwright. That would be my preferred back row, and I target a breakdown and go hard, especially with the loss of Matera. Chris Chunza, well, I'm still not convinced on Chunza yet. I'm not saying he won't be a brilliant test player, but I don't want him starting a game like this. I don't think Gatland's going to trust him to start a big game like this. It wouldn't surprise me if he went to Lydiate, but let's be honest, I don't think Lydiate's the player he was anymore. But I could still see Gatland turn into him for this game. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But I definitely think the back row is going to be the most interesting topic of debate. That's the one that's going to get people talking online, isn't it? But I think elsewhere it pretty much picks itself, doesn't it? We know Elias is going to come back in. We know Beard is going to come back in. It's pretty much picking itself now. This Wales team,
So what about Argentina then, Jane? What are you expecting from the Argentinian team? I mean, they've pretty much flown pretty much under the radar. They've not really set the world alight so far. They've not had anything outstanding, but they're still in the quarterfinal. So what have you made of them so far, and what are you expecting on the weekend?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because I think Argentina have been largely underwhelming in this tournament, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought they were absolutely diabolical against England. They haven't been convincing at all. But this is a quarterfinal now. And it does worry me that maybe they're saving their best now for the business end. It would not surprise me if they put in a really good performance against us in the quarterfinal. And I was listening to Michael Checker earlier, and he was trying to play as underdogs, wasn't he? He was doing the underdog mentality. Everyone thinks Wales are going to be in the semi-final. I think he'll have them well prepared and motivated. But they got so many good players. We've got to be careful, like Boffelli, haven't we? And they've got players that can cause damage. But I do expect Wales to beat them. Because I can remember in the last autumn when they beat England at Twickenham, and all the talk was they were going to come down to Cardiff and beat us. And, well, they underwhelmed in our game. And we beat them quite comfortably in the end. I know there was a low-scoring game, but we were pretty much in control. So, I am a bit wary of Argentina because I do think they can bring a good game on Saturday. But I think we do have the personnel, even with injuries. I think we do have the personnel to edge past them. But we know all about Argentina, but we just need to make sure our line out is solid on the set piece, and the breakdown is going to be key. So, I just think that we can get the job done, but I am wary about them, if you see what I mean. I expect us to win, but there's something about Argentina makes me think, they could really bring it on Saturday,
Well, it wasn't that long ago where we were thinking of Argentina as very much a tier 2 side, and they could spring the odd surprise every now and again. But then, they got included in the Four Nations, whatever you want to call it.
Rugby Championship.
Yeah, do you know, it kind of goes back to the Portugal kind of argument, and Italy, all right, they get stuffed by New Zealand, but they've improved, and they've improved because they're playing tier 1 sides week after week. And, this is the same Argentinian side that, didn't they beat New Zealand? I know they beat Australia. Did they beat New Zealand? Or
they
won New
beat
Zealand?
the All Blacks in New Zealand. That's what I'm saying. They can bring it back. You beat England at Twickenham, and they beat New Zealand in New Zealand recently. So we know on their day they are very dangerous and they will cause damage. But we haven't really seen Argentina clicking yet, have we, in this tournament? Like I said, I think they've been largely underwhelming. But it would not surprise me now on Saturday. Now we're in the business end of the tournament if they really do bring their A game, because they have got very dangerous players. But I know we talked about Yerba Mateo is a massive loss for them. That is a big loss for them.
I think the key is going to be who plays 10, because they've been persistent with Santi Carreras, and it's just not a 10. It's a bit like the Blair Kinghorn thing where you can sort of see why you'd put him fill him in at 10 at the end of the game, but he just isn't a 10. And Argentina look a lot more threatening whenever they've moved Sanchez there. So I think in the game against Chile, he started there and they clicked. The backline was purring.
They look better.
Yeah, I know.
Sanchez.
I know. Who was it? Mateo Carreras had his hat trick and stuff against Japan, but they've got players who can score tries. Like Chocobaras and Cinti is a hell of a centre partnership, but I think we've got a team that can match. I think the thing with Argentina is if you match them up front, and as I said before, if you chip away at them, their heads drop. Yeah, I know Wales are guilty of this as well, but they're a team you can get to. One thing that's surprising is how clean really players like Lavanini and Kramer are, especially after all the jokes about they were going to get the fastest red cards in the World Cup and things like that. But so I think that's the other thing is discipline. And I think if we can get under their skin a bit, which I know isn't very #rugby values, but this is how the game's played. Like if you can get into the opposition's head and put them off their game, then that's almost as good as scoring a couple of tries.
But
I think you've got to be careful.
How much did you enjoy in the Ireland-Scotland game when that fight broke out and you see two hookers going over the sideboarding and still going at it on the floor? How much of that did you enjoy and go, this is a bit more like it? There's a bit of passion there now. It means something. I'd love to see something like that in a Wales game, but I just think we're too controlled now. We're too...
Did you not see Basham taking on 3 Georgians?
Did you miss that?
Well, it was just him on his own. I'm talking about a full 15-man brawl, 30-man brawl, and everybody lumping in, and all of the subs joined in and all of that kind of stuff, which I thought actually at the time somebody's probably going to get a little bit of a telling off and a card off the side of the pitch and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just think, I don't know, I think we've lost that kind of passion. I think Basham is the one guy that absolutely brings it every time, and we've said that a couple of times. When he's on the pitch, it's 100 mile an hour from the off, and he gives absolutely everything every time.
He's been underused. Do you agree with me that Basham's been underused in this tournament? I'm not saying I expect him to start every game, but I thought he would have had more action than what he's had, personally. I do think he's been largely underused.
I think it's the same as the issue that Chris has had, that they're not being used the way that best suits their talents. So in the Portugal game, you saw it, and Chunza was throwing through with things. Basham, he's one of those players like this. The reason why I don't rate him so much as a 7 is because I don't think he does a lot of the ugly work very well. Like I think he'd make a fantastic 8. I know people have said he's too small, but I think he carries so much above his weight. I wouldn't worry about it. And I'd love to see him picking off. I'd love to see him picking off bases of scrums more often, and sort of more in the wide channels.
And he's different from the other ones, isn't he? Because if you look at Bethel and Morgan, they're poachers, aren't they? their breakdown specialist. Basham isn't that, but what he has got, which the likes of Revel and Morgan haven't got, he's very, very dynamic with ball in hand. He's very fast. He's got quick feet. So he's got a different skill set to Revel and Morgan, which is why I think he should have been used a lot more in this tournament, especially, coming off the bench. It just feels like he's been underused to me a little bit, which is a shame,
I think a big problem with that is just how we've basically, as soon as we got to the end of games, we were more focused on closing down as opposed to trying to build scores more. So maybe actually, if you start him off, this is why I was thinking maybe even starting Basham and bringing Revel off the bench. That could be an interesting way. And saying putting him in more like the 6, because Basham as well quite dynamic, and he can actually go up in the line-outs. I think he has in the few minutes he has been able to get up, up in the line-out, because that's the thing.
I think he's very similar to Aaron Wainwright, isn't he? I say he is very dynamic, and he's good at the back of the line as well. And I think that's quite interesting actually when he's saying about having Revel come on as a sub for Basham. I think that's quite a tidy play there, because I say he'll get stuck in, he'll give us the go forward we need. I think it's probably worth a discussion they're having in the Wales camp now with, like I said, that back row. Will we have Basham? Will we have Lydia? Junzuna? But that's quite an interesting idea. I do like the idea of Basham starting alongside Morgan and Wainwright.
We got options, haven't we? This is why Gatland hasn't called anyone up, to replace that. I know, he's replaced Abadi. He hasn't called up another back rower. We have got really good options. It's just going to be interesting to see which one he goes for and which one is better suited for this particular test.
Yeah.
Because the Argents,
I would like to see Basham, and this is something that other sides do and we don't. So when we get a penalty inside the 22 and we go, right, okay, we're going to run it. Yeah. And I would like to see somebody just grab hold of Basham for a couple of seconds before and have a quick word in his ear and really wind him up. And give him a Scott Quinnell talking to her. You want to fucking come on, you got this, and then just let him go at somebody like a pinball machine, just going through the opposition. I'd love to see it just for the hell of it. You could play that on YouTube over and over and over, because I think he'd be amazing. Just go run at them. Just go and run at them and try and do as much damage in the next 10 seconds as you possibly can. I think that is, not only would it make a good YouTube video, but I actually think we do quite well out of it, because I just love watching him.
Old school. Oh, he said he's had your mum, mate.
Yeah. He said you can have your mum's slippers back. Yeah. He's that kind of guy that you want to kind of wind him up and just let him go at people and just not worry about the consequences, sort of a thing. So that would be my way of using him. So we're rocketing through the night, gents, and it's nearly time to make some predictions for the weekend. But before we do, okay, I'm just going to remind everybody listening and say thank you, really, to everyone listening for supporting our feeder podcasts, our brother and sister podcast. So for those of you that don't know, we now have a podcast for each of the regions, and we have a Welsh language podcast. So we have the Dragon's Lair with Jamie. We've got the Ospreys Irie, which is being recorded right now. Hopefully it's still recording while I'm not sat there watching it. We've got the Scarlet's Fever that I do. And then we've got the Cardiff Central podcast as well. And then we've got a podcast in Welsh. So all of those will be kind of pumped out through the week. And we're still looking for a women's one, because the women's XV, is it WXV, women's XV?
WXV, yeah.
WXV tournament is literally just round the corner as well. So we'd love to get that up and running. So if any women are keen to come and join the podcast family, then please do. So just finally, to answer all the other questions that are on social media for this week around our pods. So yes, they're all on Spotify now. I'm working on getting them on Apple. Bear with me. It's not as easy as it sounds.
And Google.
And for those of you that follow the Ospreys Irie podcast, and you will have seen the comments on there, ignore him. He's a dickhead. everybody knows who we're talking about, but I'm not going to give him the gratitude of saying anything because he doesn't listen to podcasts apparently. But he's okay to stand there and try slag people off for coming on the podcast and being honest and having an open conversation. So we all knew who I'm talking about. He's a dickhead. Ignore him. So yeah, time for a couple of predictions. So what you think the game's going to go like and your prediction. So let's go.
We can do all the
Carling
quarterfinals
first.
as well, or just this one.
Let's just do Wales, because for the life of me, I spilled my beer over all my notes for tonight's pod, so I'm literally, I can't remember who's playing who or anything.
We're
So
all up. It's fine.
if you want to do your predictions,
Yeah, let's do all of them. Let's do all of them. I got the predictions in front of me as well. We don't have to
So
go
if
into
I-
detail on every single
So
one.
before we go through, do you want me to go through the quarterfinals then? Just,
Yeah,
just
go
for
on,
Lee,
in
because
order.
he can't remember things.
I can't
old
remember
age.
jack shit at the minute. Yeah, go on, you
Right,
go first,
so-
Harley.
So starting off on Saturday, 4:00 kickoff is Wales v Argentina.
Whoop.
Then we've got Ireland, New Zealand at 8:00 straight after. And then on the Sunday, we have England, Fiji at 4 and France, South Africa at 8. So, discuss.
Well, go on then.
Right.
Who do you think is
Right.
going through and on what scores?
Okay, so there's no reasoning behind why I think who's going to win. Okay,
Is there ever?
There never is. I'm just going to give you the scores outright, and you can take it as you like. So Wales to win 23-19. I think it'll be a close game.
It's close.
I think it'll have us all on the edges of our seat, cursing and whatever, or jumping up and down either way. England. Oh, I'm going to go for Fiji. I'm going to go for Fiji. Okay. And I think 18-13 to Fiji. Ireland, New Zealand. As much as I love my Irish friends across the water, and I lived there for 5 years, I'm going for the All Blacks to win, and I think it's going to be 22-21.
Right, so that's an Ireland win then.
France, South Africa, with Dupont back in the team, which is looking more than likely. Home advantage and all that. I'm going to go with France, and I'm going to put them down to win 26-23.
Okay. Harley, your
I'm going to go.
predictions?
I'm not going to go as exact as scores, but I reckon Wales are going to go through reasonably comfortably. But even if it doesn't say on the scoreboard, we're going to win by about 4 or 5 points. I picked Ireland to win the whole thing, and I'm not, and nothing's changed my mind yet. Even with the injuries to Lowen Hansen, so I think they'll win by about 6. I hate myself for it, and I really want to be wrong, but I think England are going to win by about 12, because I think they're just going to do the same thing they did to Argentina and just keep kicking the ball. And then, for me, the hardest one to call is France South Africa, purely because Pollard's come back. I don't know if they're going to throw him in, if they're going to throw Lucanio Am in, and France, they've fallen under pressure from the home crowd before. So, but I can't see past that. I mean, I can't see past an Ireland-France final. So I'm going to go France by 3. And I think we've lost. We might have lost Lee. I don't know. Or he's just decided to hide his mug. So I guess Jamie.
Right, so in order, I'm going to go for Wales win. Like I said, I am wary of Argentina, but I do think that we're a better team, and I do think we will have the edge on them. So I'm going to say Wales by 5. Let's go for Wales by 5. Ireland, New Zealand, history is going to be made because Ireland are going to win their first ever World Cup quarterfinal. I do think that they will beat New Zealand. I think New Zealand will be very, very good. I think it's going to be a very tight game, but I just fancy Ireland to win this. I think they'll overpower them. So I'm going for Ireland by 6. England, Fiji on Sunday. Yeah, I really don't want to say this, but I do think England will win. I think they'll win by about 10. England by 10. France, South Africa. Like Ali said, this one is hard to predict. I am going to go for France, though, just purely because they're France and they're at home. I think it's going to be a real arm wrestle, but I think France are going to come out on top by 6 points. Yeah, let's go with that. 6 points.
Okay. So I'm going to go with a Wales win by 10 points. I think we will just overpower them quite comfortably. Ireland, New Zealand, yeah, I predicted an Ireland win at the start as well, and I think by about 8, I think that they'll just keep nudging themselves 1 score ahead at least. So Ireland by 8 on that one. I can't bring myself to predict an England win. I don't care. They could be absolutely destroying everyone. So Fiji to win comfortably by 20 on that one. I just can't bring myself to do it, boys. It's just not in me. And then France. Yeah, I think France will take South Africa. The home crowd, the emotion, the moment. I think it'll be enough to get them over the line. So I think it may even go to extra time, but I think it'll be like 3 points, a drop goal or something like that. It's going to be a really, really close match, but France and the crowd will get them over the line, and I think that'll be enough for them on that one. So.
Yeah. Brilliant matches though coming up, isn't it, this weekend? I cannot wait. They're brilliant games. For all the pissing and moaning about the draw, it's Ireland, New Zealand, and France, South Africa. Those are brilliant games. I can't wait for them.
Yeah,
they're going to be crackers.
The fact that Australia aren't in the quarterfinals as well, I think is fucking hilarious. So
there is one more game to predict. If people are interested. So obviously WXV kicks off this weekend as well.
Mm-hmm.
So at the wonderfully convenient time for everyone of 4:00 in the morning on Saturday, Wales are playing Canada. It seems that these games, the games have been broadcast in the UK on ITVX and S4C, which will probably be S4C clip on their YouTube. I've got a feeling it's probably not going to be the actual channel, which is a crying shame. So if people do want to try and record it, hopefully they keep it up and you can watch it at the time. You also have New Zealand, France at 7:00 in the morning if someone wants a game to eat some cereal to before the World Cup kicks off.
I can imagine the conversations that I'm going to have with the wife about going, I'm going to get up early on Sunday morning because I want to watch the rugby in the morning, as well as 2 games in the afternoon and in the evening as well. I don't think that's going to go down very well. And I've still got my semi-final dilemma that I've now had to concede that if Wales make it to the semi-final, I won't be watching it. So
what is so important, right? that you will not be watching that game.
I've had this for the last couple of weeks, and every time I mention it, I have to go back round the houses. So when I was in hospital was my anniversary, and then I said to the wife, "Well, we'll book a weekend away," and it's that weekend.
Well, Paris is lovely that time of year. I've told you that.
Yeah, I don't, like I say, I like my testicles where they are. Thank you very much, Darwin. I'm not taking any chances with losing any more of my body parts this year. Thank you very much. So, anyway, on that note, gents, I think we're done for this week. It has been a pleasure as always, and I've just had a message through from the Ospreys podcast to say that they've finished recording as well. So that looks like that's all done. Thank you very much for your time this week, gents. It's been a pleasure as always. Enjoy your rugby. Hopefully we'll have a semi-final to discuss next week. All the best, boys. Enjoy.
Nice one. Cheers.
Take care. Thank you.
All right.